The driving mission at Go Sports is to bring you the best paintball content and broadcast in the world, behind the scenes, in the pits, and on the field. To continue this mission, we're rolling out a renovated website platform across the board, with easier search functions and a more robust chat system for better interaction with your fellow fans. Dive farther into the game with a new integrated stats portal. Get your insight into the game anytime, anywhere, with an improved functionality across all mobile devices. Check it out now. The game of paintball is a diverse activity that means many different things to many different people. But to a team originating out of Canada, Edmonton Impact, it means one thing above all others: a quest to be the absolute best. Their adventure started back in 2003 in the rookie division.
Split with Team Peg Factory. We are from Edmonton, Alberta. We're Canadians, right there.
We do a lot of training back here in Edmonton.
Then after over a decade and a half of hard work and perseverance, their Canadian core, surrounded by a select group of elite imported talent, came to define dominance as they railed off 14 wins all over the world during a 4-year run. They hadn't just climbed the mountain, they had become the mountain.
This is it, so big congratulations to Edmonton Impact.
Love your Impact! Way to go!
It says a lot. You know, I think about the boys and 10 years old playing, and you never dreamed of coming this far and how we've come.
But after their success with the win in Vegas last year, they hit a slump with disappointing finish after frustrating performance. But changes were made and new players were brought in. Now re-energized and reformed, Impact's mission remains the same as it always has been: crush everyone on the way to the #1 spot and become the best team ever to pick up a paintball gun. Join us on the Impact Series as we dive into all the on and off field drama that drives this legendary squad and their journey to get back to the top. Brought to you only by GoSports.com. Welcome to Go Sports Tactics. I have one of the best in the business, one of the best snake players on planet Earth.
Some outside kind of element get in my head and distract me from what was happening in the point.
Jackson that came, he slow rolled out to that tower and put really good paint back in there on me.
And I was just thinking, what in the world are you doing? You know what I mean? We killed them.
Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall, and happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy out there, especially for the Midwest, which is apparently just getting clobbered by golf ball size hail and tornadoes again. I got Tim Montressor on the show here, Tampa Bay Damage, Luxe, Shocker, Iron City Classic. I'm Iron City Classic shirt on today here. We're going to be talking about 10-man. We're going to be talking about paintball itself, obviously. Going to talk about Damage and what went down in Vegas. But yeah, love talking to Tim, man. We always have some good conversations here. First of all, how you doing, man? How's everything going out in your neck of the woods?
Quarantining, dude. Just staying safe, staying inside, drinking my local IPAs and doing what we do.
Yeah, I figured I'd crack one a little early for you just because, every time I sip a delicious IPA, I remember, you coming out here and us doing a little beer tour down my neighborhood, and all those places are closed now, and they've been closed for 7 weeks now. So it's a little sad and disappointing, but a brighter day will come. So, you and I are pretty positive, cheery dudes. And I think even in this bullshit that everyone's dealing with right now, I'm still trying to stay as cheery as I possibly can. But yeah, so, I mean, are you keeping your chin up over there? Because I was thinking, so wait, hold on. So I was talking to my wife. She's like, who do you have on the show this week? And I was like, well, Wednesday, I'm going to have Tim on. Remember Tim came out. She's like, yeah, I remember Tim. And then we're having one of the Russians on. She's like, oh, that'll be interesting. And I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, dude, Tim. And I thought about it. I'm like, man, if all the people out there, except for maybe Ryan and Marcelo and maybe Harrison, there's like no one else is quite the road warrior you are, because you work and also play for all these different teams on every continent. And I mean, this has got to be a little bit of a complete 180 for you. So I'm just wondering, like, are you depressed? Like, because it sucks. It's got to suck.
Dude, it's funny you said that, because I I called my parents and just checking in, because one thing I found out of all this is we're getting exponentially better about calling people and just saying, hey, how are you doing? Because we're bored. We're reaching out to everybody saying, hey, how are you doing? And because we truly care, but we just have more time. And my parents asked me the same thing. And I said, I don't know if I'm bored or depressed, because I haven't really ever been either one of them. And I might be a combo of both of them. And they're like, you're just bored. You've never been bored. I'm like, yeah, I'm just really bored. This is the longest stretch I've been home since probably 2004 or 5.
Yeah, which is crazy because, dude, it's 2020. So, I mean, that's a long ass time for you to be on the road.
Yeah.
How many miles did you do a year? How many miles were you doing a year?
So last year I did about 220. I did 190 with American and about 30 with some other airlines. So, people are like, is that a lot? And I go, to put it into perspective, you fly from New York to LA and back, it's like 4,800. And I flew about 220,000 last year alone.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been consistently flying more than 150,000 for the last 7 years.
And, I mean, just so everyone kind of knows, who were you playing with and where? What leagues were you playing? Because I think a lot of people that play in the States, maybe they just play the regional series. Like, we got a chance to go down to the MVPS in the early part of the year to do a show with Go Sports and the Combine down there and meet a lot of cool Florida dudes who were saying they want to give Texas a run for their money. So I love that we have that awesome divisional scene that was getting really potent. And I'm hoping that even after all this COVID stuff goes away, that people will still be raring and ready to play again. But the divisional scene was getting pretty, I thought pretty stout. But you're one of those guys that had gone around the world. So talk to me a little bit about the international paintball scene.
Yeah, so I play whatever NXL tournament is the US. I always commit to, whether it's MPPL, PSP, and NXL. Overseas, I've always played the Millennium, NXL Europe. This year, I'd fully committed to play all the Super 7s in Australia. So Action Paintball, Mike Wybrew have a phenomenal event down there. And they do an event in February, so that's always a good warm-up. And you see all the Dynasty guys and Chad George down there just getting ready for the season. So I said, I want to commit to playing with the Eskimo brothers, who they're this huge conglomerate of like 100 guys down in Australia that just love paintball. And me and Chad have been trying to build this program and get into the top and bring new people in. So I said, I'm going to commit to all 4 events there. I usually play a couple events in Asia. So I usually play the WPC in Thailand. I was going to try to play a couple events of the NXL Asia in Malaysia. David Gooch does a phenomenal job. I usually play a couple events in Latin America. So last year I played the 507 in Panama. I played the BXL in Brazil. I'll play an event or 2 in Colombia. This year I was going to try to go to the OPL in Canada too, because they're going to let pros. So I had like 21 tournaments on the slate, not counting the ones that I go to just for work or to kind of watch.
And how many do you think it's going to be now?
If at this point, if I get one, I'll be stoked. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the fall we could be okay, but at best probably a third of that. I'm probably thinking 7 to 9 realistically. Yeah,
for
definitely
sure.
A change.
It's definitely a change for everybody. So, I mean, we'd be gearing up for Texas right now. Also, everyone at home, we got a new side of Go Sports, the live Go Sports Tactics. We're going to be discussing a little bit later, Tim. Actually, one of the games we're going to be breaking down next. Going to have Keith Brown actually come on for episode 3 of Go Sports Tactics. We have Kyle Spicka's up on the site right now. We just had Archie talk through their epic win in Philly last year. Tim, I'm sure we're going to get you in there eventually as well too, but kind of breaking down that sort of stuff. Before we kind of dive into, because I just, when I touch base with you, because you are so, plugged in internationally, and I got a chance to play in Japan back in the day, played in Europe and different places, got to go to Aruba and Tahiti and kind of in those early days, there was kind of a big difference between the level of play, but just like how the divisional teams have all gotten better, the pros have all gotten better, everything always continues to progress. And I just thought that that's kind of something you could speak on as far as, when these places kind of got locked into playing a little bit, tournaments on a little bit more frequent basis and where kind of each stage is in their level of development.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess Europe is the big one, right? I mean, they've been doing it pretty much just as long as we have. And I went to Europe the first time in 2004, And I remember we played a team when I was on the All-Americans, and we beat them 22-0. And the only reason we didn't score more is because Smart Parts sponsored them, right? And we were on the All-Americans, and they asked us to just stop scoring so many points. And this was an elite level team, right? And I'm not going to throw their name under the bus, but it was a little rough. And then I started playing with the Tauntauns full-time in 06. And I remember we made the finals, and I hadn't been shot the entire tournament in an X-Ball tournament in Paris in 06. And then you fast forward 15 years now forward, and I truly believe that teams like the Tauntauns could come over here and compete and bang with all the pros. One thing about Europeans is they've always been technically sound, right? And that's a byproduct of their inability to practice other high-end teams, whether it's gun laws or locality or finances. So they practice a lot with themselves. So you watch a guy like Axel and Colombo and Fabrice, they're so technically sound, and they've always been able to live off of that. But now that they're kind of out there more and they're going more around Europe and coming to the US, they're kind of adding a little bit more of that freestyle to their game, and they're integrating it. And you see teams that I mean, the Tauntauns have been mopping up the semi-pro division. They should have probably been in the pro division. I get the rules why they're not, but they're going to dominate in Europe. You'll get Kiev United, right? I mean, they're bringing in Fedorov this year. Me and Keith played with them last year. I'll get the guys there that are playing better, even 5-star. And I'm just basing this off of the knowledge of the teams that I've played with and seeing how they continue to progress. Let's look at Blast, for example, right? A-Rod goes over, plays with them, and they just need a little bit of boost, right? They have the talent. In Norway, they're just all fundamentals, right? They have reball. It's cold like 10 months out of the year. And he just said, hey, we got to open up and loosen up a little bit, and kind of gave them a little bit more knowledge. And, I mean, they knocked out the Kings in whatever event that was, Prague, I think it was. And then, it's Greenspan and Archie and Spica. And it's just time, right? It's just time of playing against high-end guys and against and with. And, Australia's been the same way too. We used to go down there 15, 16 years ago and just wear these guys out. And the nicest guys in the world. And they finally said, I'm fed up with it. And they started bringing in guys like Greenspan and guys like Chad George and Ryan Moorhead that were going down there on the reg and teaching them the same thing. And I go down there, and these guys are vicious, man. They're savages, and they're training all the time. And I see the same thing starting to happen in Asia, right? Asia is starting to grow and expand. Latin America too. Latin America is a little bit harder because there's a lot of cultural differences where, if you're in Colombia, you won't work with the Mexicans don't work with the Brazilians. So it's hard to lump them all together geographically. But you have teams like Tsunami that are coming to every NXL in the US, the Wild Dogs from Colombia that are coming to every NXL in the US, and they're just gaining all this knowledge and taking it back to their regions. And it's awesome. It's good to see. And I think they're probably all maybe 2-3 years still to kind of catch up to that curve. But there's just so many sources of information like Go Sports, like the tactics you have, like BKI, where they can get all this stuff that did not exist 20 years ago. And that curve is just going up faster and faster.
Yeah, I just love every time that I would travel internationally and meet all those people, especially the vibe in, the NXLs in Europe, Millennium before that, or teaching clinics in different places. And, I remember being in Tahiti teaching a clinic, and we show up to the field, and the wives have been there making breakfast at the field before we even got there. So there's like breadfruit and, all this. It was just, but then, and you can see that when they come over to the States too. That's why World Cup's always so fun to go to. And God, dude, I can only imagine how crazy World Cup's going to be this year with everyone being, quarantined. It's going to be a crazy naked orgy,
it's like
probably out there. Yeah, it's going to be wild, dude. But yeah, I always appreciated that joy, that pure joy, fun vibe that they would bring to the, this thing, because I feel that, we used to have that a little bit more here in the States. It was very tribal back in the day. We've talked about this on previous shows, how I was raised to hate, the East Coast teams, and you respect some of the Midwest teams. And yeah, we knew how good you guys were, how good the Philly Americans were, all Americans before that. But I was raised to hate those dudes. You were raised to hate us. You hated Oliver. You hated the Ironman. Yeah. It was like, that's just how it was. It was like, it was a very tribal thing. It was like us versus them, and it's they, and we hate you guys. Why? Just cause you're not us. And that's just how it is. But then as things progressed, it kind of broke out of that, because you met these guys from different parts of the States, and you're like, oh, well, these dudes are exactly like us. They just happen to be from Pennsylvania instead of California. And then you would have that fun vibe. But then things got very, as it went more towards being a sport and things got more athletic and the training, and then it was everyone was taking it super seriously, and they still do to this day. Not to say that people don't take it seriously in other places, but you would lose that joy and fun a little bit. It would be much more of a job, much more, very studious about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it was, it was about taking it as seriously as possible. And I mean, even to the point where like Rich had come to me before and been like, dude, I'm sorry for being such a hard ass. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry for us being such wild assholes back in the day, because I appreciate you being a hard ass. Like, I appreciate you guys being wild assholes, because it, but I just, anytime I would see that, is that joy that because that's still there. It's in Europe and in different places, there's still like an innate purity to the fun that they're having when they come to these things. They stay at the field, they want to drink beers and talk to people and chant and sing songs and stuff. And it's just a good time.
Yeah, I think it could also be a byproduct of culture too, though. I mean, you look at youth sports here in the country, right? I mean, and you have parents that are just so gung-ho for Pee Wee football, right? And Little League baseball. And it's a different perspective than probably, Asia or Europe or Australia. And it's just who we are as Americans, right? We want to win at everything we do. And eventually the honeymoon factor, that phase goes away and we get competitive. It doesn't matter. And I mean, I watched a cornhole tournament on ESPN the other day because there's nothing else, right? And people are just so into it, right? And I can't imagine going to Australia or going to, the Czech Republic, places where people just live a different lifestyle, and seeing that. That's just who we are as Americans, positively or negatively.
Yeah. And I got to ask, this is, I think, I wouldn't say it's important, but I feel that if I was going to ask somebody this question, I got to ask you this question. I mean, you kind of, even though you are a very hardworking guy, I mean, it's insane the amount of hours and time that you put into making sure your companies are successful. I mean, to see what you've done with the Iron City Classic. So you are definitely grinding. I mean, when you kind of want your dream job, the biggest part of that is you need to work your ass off to make sure that you carve yourself out a niche to do the thing that you do have joy just innately about, and then to turn that into a profession. But do you have any advice for anyone that's out there like, are you kidding me? This dude gets to literally just travel around the world and like help run paintball companies and like just play for all these teams everywhere. Like, how I want to do that. Like, how do I do that? So if I was 16 years old and coming up to Tim Montressor and being like, hey, I just got started in this. I'm going to school. I'm probably going to college. I'm not really sure. What should I do? What advice would you give to people coming up the ranks if they want to live that dream paintball lifestyle?
It's funny because it's not even probably a paintball discussion. It's just the life discussion. And I'm so fortunate. I think I actually woke up today and I was thinking about doing this podcast and I was like, that'll be fun, But I get up the same way every day to go to work. And I'm like, man, I love going to work. I love the people I work with. The gardeners always treating me well. I literally, I'm looking at Sam Monville's office. It's like there's just a thin wall of mesh that separates us. And we hang out and joke and shoot paintball guns every day and think about how we're going to grow the company. And yeah, I'm very fortunate and lucky, but it's also a byproduct of, as you said, somewhat hard work. I mean, I spent a long time at universities. I mean, I started at Michigan State. I dropped out when Adam said, hey, move to Pittsburgh. I want to teach you business firsthand, stay on the All-Americans. I think they were more worried about me going to the Russian Legion, which I thought about after we won the World Cup. But they taught me business firsthand, right, when I was 19.
Yeah. And
then I went back to school. When Smart Parts went bankrupt, I ended up getting a master's degree in business management, and that was a lot of work. I mean, I dedicated 2 hard years to doing it. I love business. And so every kid says, hey, how can I get into that? The number one thing, and this has nothing to do with paintball, this is just life, don't accrue a ton of debt, right? Debt forces us to make decisions we don't like. So go to community school, right? If you start at your 3 C's but finish from Harvard, the degree is the same. Don't accrue debt. Yeah. Go to school for something you love. If you have to take a year or 2 off, go back to school when you're ready to learn something you enjoy. I love business management, and it's crazy to think how much I love cost analytics. I love thinking about things. Oh, it costs this much. How much does it cost to make? How much can we sell it for? I really enjoy that, probably just as much as paintball. And I didn't realize that till later when I had the time to go back to school. And then I was able to come and bring that into the office place. And I work side by side with Adam, and he teaches me his knowledge, and we work side by side. And I just did my best to make conscious life decisions, but with an overall focus of saying, hey, my goal is to play paintball. How can I play paintball and travel and do all these things, but then offer value to whatever company it was I was going to go to? So, when I finished graduate school and we started over with DLX, they needed to improve their international sales, right? They need to improve their distribution. Well, guess who loves getting on a plane and going around the world and meeting with dealers and going out drinking with them, asking them to buy more things? This guy, right? So I saw an opportunity and I was able to take all the things that I like, and leverage them to be better at my job. And I'm fortunate. I really am.
Yeah. Well, it's always that combination of right place, right time, right talent, but then the ability to see those things and then utilize force of will and hard work to achieve that, which you think you're possible of and might have an aptitude to do. And also understanding the thing, it's a business, man. It's like, I always laugh sometimes because you have these kids that will come up and be like, you're around people that work with companies. I'm sure this happens to you all the time, or teams, and be like, hey, we want to get sponsored. Okay, cool. Like, well, tell me, like, give me your spiel, man. Like, give it to me. Hey, at least you came up and asked. The answer is always no unless you ask, right? And then they'll just like, well, just love paint. I just love paintball. So since I love paintball, I think like, you should give. It's like, oh my god, dude. And yes, people are probably out there. Are they that dumb? Do people really say that? Yes, they do. Like, that's not how things work. Yeah. So unfortunately, but so
I guess let's that's the second part
thing, because so that's the second part. Just as a public service announcement for the people out there in the world, just to avoid your embarrassment for yourself and a big fat no, please educate people as to how the sponsorship thing works and what a person like you actually goes through your mind when you're thinking about potentially sponsoring somebody. This might save you some time.
That's a good question. Yeah, no, and it's a very fair question because, I do a lot here. I think my experience and my degrees have allowed me to kind of oversee a lot of different facets of the company. So sales, marketing, promotions, sponsorship is the big one. The number one thing is creating value, right? If someone says, and it's the same thing, how do you get a job in the industry? How can you help that company make money? Same thing with sponsorship. People always ask for things, but how can you benefit the company? So if you ask for this, how can you help a company make more money on the back end? And everything is just a byproduct of that, right? So people come to me and say, hey, can I get 50 guns? Well, can you help us sell more guns? No, but we're nice guys. Well, that doesn't really help, right? Everything just has to have a reversed value. I mean, I suppose that's every relationship in life, like if you ask for a discount, how can you help offset that discount? If you ask for free stuff, how can you help sell more things, right? It's a true relationship. It's like dance that we all do in the industry. And I remember when I sent Chris Hagen from CAP an email when I was 15, and I asked him for free drop forwards. And I said, hey, Chris, that drop zone 2 would look pretty badass on my Air America Pop Ghost reg. And he sends me back. He goes, awesome. It's $59.99. And I'm like, that's $5 off the map. And he's like, yeah, I don't know who you are. And he actually said that in the email. And that kind of opened my eyes.
Oh,
Chris was honest.
There's an article. Yeah, there's an article. I think you and I might have talked about this before. God, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that wrote it. I could probably look it up real quick. But it's called something like 6 Harsh Truths That Will Make You a Better Person. If you're sitting around on your computer and you're watching this, just type that into Google, do yourself a favor and read it. If you're a grown-ass human, you probably know all these lessons already. But if you're coming up, it's probably one of the most insightful things you're going to read. It will definitely help you along the way. And it starts off with, imagine you're walking down the street. I'm paraphrasing because I haven't read it in a while. You're walking down the street and you're with your mom, and somebody shoots your mom. So your mom's sitting there now on the street bleeding out, and you're looking around desperately for somebody, like, call 911. Is anyone a doctor? You're hoping that somebody can save your mom, your loved one here. And somebody runs up and they're like, I can help you. And you're like, oh, thank God. Are you a doctor? And you're like, no, but I'm a really good dad to my kids. It's like, dude, I need a doctor right now. My mom is bleeding out in the street, and I don't really give a shit how good of a dad you are to your kids, or how cool you are to your friends, or how fun you are. Like, I need a doctor right now. And that's how he starts it off. He's like, all of life, that's a metaphor for all of life. People need things from other people. They need their car fixed. They need a house. They need to do their taxes. They need a job. They need to eat things. They need a roof over their head. People need things. And human beings are in the service of providing things for other people. Sometimes it's entertainment. Other times it's corn to eat or whatever the hell it may be. But you can't just go about the world and make your way through, the paintball world or anything else just by being a cool dude. It helps. People like working with cool dudes, or girls. It definitely helps. I'm assuming one of the reasons you're great at your business is you're super fun to drink beers with after everything's said and done. After we did all the business, And when we go hang out, you're one of my favorite dudes to do that with. But that's just part of it. You know, that's just like an extra, it's a cherry on the top. It makes things, it's like the grease. It's the grease for the mechanism a little bit, you know? So, but yeah, I just seeing it, how you run, you know, help run this company and have to make sponsorship decisions. And that's, you know, one of the first things that people, so when they start moving their way up the ranks in the divisional ranks, if they want to one day go pro or whatever, if they just want to have a cheaper adventure along the way, they're always wondering, well, how the hell do I actually get sponsorship? So anytime I have somebody like you on, I feel like I have to do my due diligence to send that PSA out into the world so that people can at least go about it the educated way to have the best chance of success, instead of just being like, hey, dude, can I get some free shit? Because that's not how it works.
Yeah, I know, and I appreciate you asking that, because it is a reality. I mean, it's the best and the worst part of my job is telling people yes it's awesome. I love saying it. I hate saying no, because I always feel bad, but that's just how it works, right? I mean, you have to do what is the best for the company. You know, there's some great pro teams we've had to say no to. There's some great amateur teams that we say, hey, we can't make it work. And it is what it is. But to improve that probability, again, as you're saying, it's just people need things, and it's offering something in exchange. And I'm going to give you corn. I need some I don't know, some vegetables back end, right? Oh, okay. It's just how it works.
Yeah. I got a pig, you got some corn. I got tomatoes, you know, and you happen to have access to, you know, a piece of marble that I need to make a mortar out of. You know, I mean, it's just like, welcome to, you know, humankind forever. And thus it was written, thus it always shall be. It is a bit of a transactional relationship. Let's move on and talk about 10-man. You know, I think that, thank the paintball gods or whatever, I'm hoping that we'll be able to get out of this madness in enough time to actually have the Iron City Classic. Obviously, you're having it in Pennsylvania and each state. I think that as we kind of get out of what's happening, and you've already seen this, I'm sure you've been following this. I've been following it as closely as I possibly can. Probably my wife would say too much. You know, she's always like, will you stop reading, you know, so many, and so I'm like, I just feel like I need to know what's going on. But so obviously we got the most anticipated 10-man event coming up here, the Iron City Classic. It's been such an amazing success so far. Held at Urban Assault Paintball, famous paintball field. We played 10-man back in the day at that exact location. It's obviously changed since then, but I love what you guys have done with it. I love how the mound field was looking last year, as it, you know, you guys had cut it in, and then all that foliage grew in. I love the other field that was over there too. Obviously, Hyperball is going to be super fun. From a story standpoint, with the teams that have gone there, it's been fascinating and who's done well. But yeah, I wonder how things are going in Pennsylvania. And I mean, I guess the $10,000 question is, do you think you can actually have it on the date that it's scheduled?
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly positive, right? I mean, I always believe that the glass is half full. So, you know, I think as a country, we're doing a lot of the right things to help make sure that we have a successful summer, to make sure that life can go on successfully at some point in time. So yeah, I feel pretty optimistic on it. But there's a lot of things that are outside of our little paintball world's control, right? I mean, this is a pandemic that's probably never been seen before in our parents' lifetime, probably not since the Spanish flu. So again, I don't really know for sure, but I mean, all the reports that I'm getting, that I'm reading, which I like, and same as you, I read them nonstop every day. I'm feeling pretty positive. I mean, I've had some teams call me and say, hey, what are you going to do? And I was actually looking at the calendar today, you know, and we're about 5 weeks into some of the quarantining here in PA, and it's gotten exponentially better. And we're still 13 weeks away from the Iron City. So, you know, we're only 33% into what we've projected. So we got a long way to go. You know, if the state allows us to have it and the government says, okay, 100% we're going to have it. I feel all the teams are super positive about it and they're stoked. They just want to get out and play paintball, and assuming the world's safe and everything's good, I mean, it's going to be a great event.
Yeah. No, this is obviously, I love the game of paintball, but this is one of so I love all the events, but this is one that has become very special. It's obviously dear to me. You know, I grew up playing 10-man. I played at that field back when I was in my late teens and early 20s, and just love what you have done with the event. You know, last time we had you on the show, I was begging for you to take it to 100 teams. I guess another question now too would be people that are listening to this, or, I mean, there might be some spots opening up. You sold it out and even faster than you did last year, but do you anticipate there potentially being some spots that could open up, and how are you going to go about filling those? I'm assuming you have a wait list. I'm just wondering how you're going to be dealing with that.
Yeah, so we sold the 72 teams out. Now the top 27 got to prepay early, and almost all of them did. But we sold the 72 total out, and from the time we opened at noon, we sold out at 12:04, and from the time the first transaction got paid to the last one was 2.5 minutes. So Rail keeps all the stats and called me and was like, wow, this is completely ridiculous. So it was 150 seconds to the time that we sold the whole thing out. And we had 30 teams pay before it got shut down from the APPA. It says, hey, we can't, there's like a latency issue for, I think, 45 seconds from the time the last one collects to the remaining whatever till it shuts off. So in that 45 seconds, we actually collected, I don't know, 28 more entry fees I had to refund the next day. Actually, I was on the MVPS. I was flying down the MVPS to come see you guys. I had to refund everybody on the way to the airport. So we have like a 35 team wait list. But that was in January. The situation is drastically different now. I do anticipate us still having a full boat of teams. Domestically, I think we'll be okay, right? I mean, we're still flying in the country here. Internationally, I think there could be maybe some immigration issues for some people, but I've already had multiple teams, probably no less than a dozen teams, reach out to me that are forecasting similar situations that said, hey, just checking on my spot. So I think we'll have, assuming we have the event, right, which I feel positive about, I think we'll have a full turnout for it. Segueing that into another conversation saying, hey, will we expand? Eventually we will. And just to go back on the conversation we had earlier in the year, the only reason I didn't, and I felt awful telling people that they couldn't come and having to refund people. And trust me, in the perfect world, you hate turning money away. And it's like, I'd take my DLX hat and you'd never send money back and do whatever you could do to make a sale. But at the end of the day, I want to make the best possible event.
Well, and you broke poor pal Owen's heart.
Oh my God, I love that guy. He's such a good guy. He's coming to play the 5-man though. God, thanks, Patty.
Sorry, dude. I just had to dig that in a little, just twist it. Look, you know how it is. I mean, when you're running an event, whatever, you're running a company, running an event, whatever you may be doing, with something that's this successful, you're right. It's not like selling shockers, man. Yeah, you're going to try to produce as much as you possibly can for that demand, selling paintballs. This is a product, but it is a very limited product because the product is the experience. And that specific location can really, I feel like, I was only kind of really messing with you. I'd love to see 100 teams out there. But Jesus Christ, dude, you can only shoehorn so many human beings into that one specific place, as far as parking is concerned. And that was kind of your big issue, was that you felt from a logistical standpoint, you could pull off 100 teams, but it would have just been bending over backwards and really pushing things to the maximum. And you were always wondering, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'd love to have that many more people come and have that experience. But you would have to bulk so it wouldn't even be that much more money for you personally or for the organization, because you'd have to bulk everything out. And then how does that eat away at the experience for the 72 teams that are actually going to be there? So, what are your thoughts on eventual expansion? Because we are going to get out of this quarantine madness eventually. Life will go back to normal. I'm sure this is something we're always going to have to worry about. But that being said, I'm just wondering for the fans of 10-man and Iron City Classic, which obviously there are a ton because you sold out in a minute and a half or whatever. But, people they're trying to prepare for 2021. So, are they going to have to write an algorithm, a bot to make sure that they're the first people in on their, get their payment in? Or
I'm not 100% sure, right? I'm still at this point just focusing on August and just make sure we're ready for that. Next year will be our 5th year anniversary. So I'm working on some ideas. One thing, like I was texting you and Darren the other night, one thing, I'm sitting around doing nothing and I'm just constantly keeping the gears turning and trying to come up with some ideas. And I have some ideas for the 5th year. I'm not sure if they're sustainable because from a logistical infrastructure, financial perspective, they're not the best, but I have some ideas to maybe make it a memorable experience to just say, hey, 10-man classic paintball, all this stuff is on the map. But I'm not going to announce or even really get down that rabbit hole until I get through August. I do think we are in a position to probably make the best statement to paintball that says, hey, this thing's real. This whole game is real. Take it to your country and your region to help grow it. And that's my whole thing with the Iron City is I want people to come here, experience it, and then take it and grow it. And if there's going to be a time, I feel that next year is that time. And I'm working with Rail, working with Russell, Phil, and we're spitballing ideas. That's still 19 months away though.
So you don't want to talk about any of those ideas right now? Are you keeping them secret? Or, I mean, it's just you and me, Tim, bro. It's just you and me, bro. We're at the bar right now. Like, just
the reality would be an expansion to the teams, right? And we just make it a bigger event, potentially the IAO style. Again, it's infrastructurally, logistically, and financially not the best idea, but it is probably the opportunity to, in 2021, post this horrible year that we're currently having, to just say, hey, screw COVID, screw all the naysayers, 10-man, whatever is the right thing. And I think maybe next year could be that time. It'd be pretty badass in my mind to say, hey, here's a tournament that has just this unfathomable amount of people, which, I was texting you the other day, the 99 World Cup, right? The one that Push was filmed at, the one that molded and shaped my entire paintball career, only had 83 10-man teams, right?
Yeah,
so to beat that would be pretty rad.
I told you before that the very first 10-man I ever went to in 1994, when I was 16 years old, it's a World Cup, and in Orlando, the very first year it was there were 72 teams there. And I'm pretty sure it took the NPPL at the time, which was what it took, a lot longer than a minute and a half to sell 72 spots. So, and this is a longer conversation, which is why I always love bringing you on. I do want to get to Damage, and I can't keep you forever, but yes, we have to get through all of this madness with the COVID-19 craziness and the Rona, screwing everything up right now. But that being said, like, we're going to emerge from this, man. Like, we will be playing paintball in some way, shape, or form before we even know it. And like I said on the last show last week, come hell or high water, it's going to happen. This isn't jujitsu. I think jujitsu is an amazing thing too, but in the sport of jujitsu, you have to be incredibly, right next to somebody, literally body to body with that person. So when you're talking about physical transmission of a virus from one person to the other, that's a totally different story than paintball, man. Like, we're dealing with something that's a completely different level. Like, yeah, you bunker people, you run by them, and yeah, there's a lot of people in an area, but it's outdoors. It's not being held indoors, and you're not going body to body with people. So we are going to be able to play paintball here pretty soon. And that being said, I'm excited for things and different versions of the sport to kick up and get back rolling. And this is one of the biggest ones. And it's like, yeah. So, but paintball has grown. Like, the sport of paintball is still thriving. And you talked about all these different places internationally that you're going to play, and how much better those people have become, and how much better the sport from a tactical perspective, the level of play, how good they are. The business itself, like. Yeah, we don't have outside industry companies coming in like in the mid 2000s during that giant bubble and throwing like gazillions of dollars to lose all that money to inflate it up before the crash of the Great Recession. Everyone's a lot smarter than they are now than they were back then. But I'm just saying that in general, I think that once we get through all this, this craziness, I think it's generally a healthy outlook for the sport of paintball. And I love what you're doing with the 10-man thing. I do kind of want to talk, just because why not? We've been kind of keeping this under wraps a little bit. It's not like the craziest thing in the world, but can we talk a little bit about the fun thing that we were planning for halftime? Because, I mean, we might as well, right? Why not? I mean, I'm excited for this. I want to see it.
All right, so I'll pitch my idea that I've been working on, just to add something for entertainment value. And all of these are rough, right? I mean, we're like on ground phase 1 here, and I got about 90 days left to keep working it out. But we were, as me, you, and Darren were talking when we were having dinner down at the MVPS, right? There's that hour gap on Saturday where we have a dead field, so the refs can take a break and we can kind of get recentered, and we all want to kick something idea around. I mean, we have a who's who Hall of Fame class of people at that event. And this is my rough idea. Don't quote me on this, because I'll put all the graphics and information out there. But, I think it would be really cool to have maybe I'm thinking north-south, just because we're used to east-west. So maybe split up, do north-south game. And each year have a theme on the captain, right? Say, hey, coaches or MPPL board members from the OG or current pros, whatever, and select and do a best 2 out of 3 all-star game. Play for a trophy, like a perpetual trophy that rotates, that people's names on it, or whatever, team names on it, that they exchange every year. And make it more for pride, right? I mean, we do all these all-star games, and they're just we do them just to do them. Make it and put something on the line. And the one thing I thought that would be arguably the most humiliating and the most rewarding trade-off would be, as a league or tournament, we'll provide the jerseys or shirts or whatever to each team to differentiate. But the losers got to give their shirts to the winners to throw over the nets to all the spectators, right? And And I was telling Sam, and I asked Sam, and I'm like spitballing, and I go, "Hey Sam, think about it. If you were on the North team, and you beat the South team, and you went over to someone like Kyle Spica from California, and you said, hey kids, you lost. Give me your shirt," and you throw it over the net at the end of the All-Star game to show everybody you won. That's the ultimate, like, oh man, I do not want to lose this game. And I think to see an intermix of guys like, let's say, Ryan Moorhead and Danny Love playing together, right? New school All-Americans with old school abstract playing together to try to beat, like someone like Chino from Rage playing with, like Archie, right? I mean, I think that's something that as kids we all grew up wanting to see, and at least for 45 minutes, maybe we can put out there on the webcast.
I can't. Yeah, that's why when we sat down, we're like, hey, because we had, I think that's something I want to see as a fan. I always loved watching those things. I loved playing in stuff like that back in the day. And now the fact that we have all of these people here, you have all these legends, all the old school legends, and then you got all these the dudes that are current, old school dudes, and the current legends at the same time. So many of them are actually there. And we do have that time that we might as well do something with it. I mean, sure, I'd love to not talk for an hour, and because those are long days, dude. It's crazy how much paintball you shoehorn in to that amount of time. But I would gladly take my lunch and be just trying to get a bite in here or there of a hamburger or a sandwich to be able to watch that, because I just think that would be super cool. We are going to have to figure out what to do with the California guys and all the Western dudes if we do a north-south, because it's like, is it Northern California goes with the North and Southern California goes with the South? Because I mean, that could be it too.
That's phase 2. We're at phase 1 out of phase 11. So we got the idea out there. Like, I feel more positive about it than I did maybe 72 hours ago. Like, half a bottle of red wine in, I was like, okay, I think this could work. Kind of look at the schedule. We'll work on the logistics, but I think that it's an opportunity to be missed if we didn't capitalize on that lunch break and the people that are there to see something that we all kind of wanted to see growing up. I mean, think about basketball. Like, if you could see, even if Jordan wasn't his prime, but to see Jordan and LeBron play together for a pickup 3-on-3 game, I want to watch that, right? And to see Ryan Greenspan play with Tom Cole, I mean, that'd be pretty entertaining, I feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and we got, hey dude, we're already there with the cameras. The cameras are set up. It's rolling. We might as well provide some sort of entertainment for the people. Let's do it. I mean, if the people are there, the cameras are there, everybody's there.
Yep.
Yeah, stage is there, man. So let's get the actors out on the stage and the competitors and go at it. I just think it's funny because it'll be like a street ball type thing, but it'll be like a 10-man street ball, but with captains and shit talking, and it'll be brutal. I mean, and sure, let's give the refs their rest. I mean, we don't even necessarily. We could do a call your own foul thing. That would be pretty crazy. I don't know. Again, phase 2, bro. I don't know if we get away with that on the waiver, have them sign a waiver or something. But and then you got like the enforcers on each team, but. It'll still. I just can't wait. Again, I'm just, like you said, I don't know what week are you on quarantine? Because we're on week 7 here. Because as soon as we got back from Vegas, we were immediately into quarantine. So,
yeah, we're on week 6.
Yeah, and man, God bless you if you're somewhere that you've been able to get out a little bit, because California's been pretty hardcore. They even were giving away $1,000 tickets. In the city of San Diego at certain places the past couple weeks, if you were like caught out, like even watching the sunset from your car, like you were getting $1,000 ticket. So,
brutal. Yeah, we're not that bad yet.
Yeah, super. Yeah, no. Anyway, but all right, let's talk about Damage, because you and I could sit here and we could be talking all night. So just remind everybody for the date and Iron City Classic, and just real quick, just what are you going to do? What's the official response on, since I'm sure there's people on the waiting list right now that are thinking, oh, this might be my chance. Maybe the people from Europe aren't going to be able to make it, and I might be able to get in there. So what's give everyone the date again, and then what are you officially going to do about that wait list? Are you going to be reaching out to people personally, or do they need to hit you up? How's that working?
Yeah, no, I'll reach out to everybody personally. So the event will have the 5-man on Friday, July 31st. The event site opens on Thursday, July 30th, with the 10-man on August 1st and 2nd. Currently, nobody's backed out. We still have all 72 teams. I have a wait list currently of 25 teams that will start filling, and I just call them right down the order. If anybody wants to be added to that wait list, just reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever. There's about 10 different outlets to get a hold of me. I'll add you to the wait list, and as teams drop, which I don't forecast too many, but assuming they do, we'll fill out from it, and we'll make sure we get our 72 teams.
Nice. All right, let's talk about Tampa Bay Damage. You guys had a pretty interesting Vegas. You continue to look better. You're ranked 6th overall whenever we get back into the NXL. And I kind of wanted to get a thorough discussion of how you felt that event, how it went. We are going to be having a tactics show with Keith Brown, breaking down your guys' loss to the Russians in the quarterfinals, blow for blow. And I'm looking forward to getting Keith's kind of read on that. I'm looking forward to getting your read on it right now, just in general about the event. You had some close games. It started out in game number 1. You played Energy Elite, the new kids on the block. That was a 1-point match. They came out and they took the lead against you guys. And then it kind of went blow for blow. They came out, took the lead. You guys took it back. They came back some points and tied it up. You guys had an inopportune penalty. But just what was your, heading in, what were you thinking about that match? And then while it was going down, what were you thinking? And then just in general, what's your perception about Energy Elite? Because they're one of the new kids on the block, but they had a decent look at the event.
Yeah, I mean, I know they have a different name, right? But I mean, that's just a more revved up version of Boom. Like, it's actually, in my opinion, a better version of Boom because they took some of the core players, and added the best players from Elite, which they had a lot of up and coming players, added Lackey. And for whatever reason, in the 3 or 4 years we've been playing against Boom, they've always matched up really well with us, right? I mean, we've never blown them out. We've never lost to them, but we've never blown them out. And it's always one of those things where, like, for whatever reason, the personnel, the way they play, we've had close matches. And I don't know, that was really indicative of our whole tournament. I mean, they're a legitimate team, but they've always matched up well with us. And we don't take anybody lightly. Without a doubt, we'd expected to win by more. But, it was what it was, and we used everything experienced from that and moved on to the next game. I mean, I think we played Thunder the next one.
Yeah, and that game wasn't as close. In fact, the next 2 games weren't as interesting from a tactical, from a point perspective, from a story perspective. But that first game I thought was really interesting because it was a good, so Energy Elite, definitely it's a ramped up version of Boom, but I think the story's a little bit more diverse than that because they got a new owner coming in. Alan's trying to he wants to build a superstar squad. He went after dudes with money. He's definitely a paintball patron. He wants to pay dudes.
He's legit. He's great.
And he's got money in the bank. He's got the motive and the method to, well, I don't know the method yet. We'll see, but he's definitely got the ability to try to get some good guys on his team. So, he went to Chris Jansen and they merged the squad, but he brought in some other guys too. So they have like 3 different areas of the United States where they have like 4 different guys. And so I don't know who their top guys are going to be. They have one of the deepest rosters in the league. I do want to get one of the guys from Energy Elite on before we get to the next event. So we'll definitely do that. I'm not sure exactly who it's going to be yet, but to give more information about that squad. But it was a really good look for your guys' first game. But you guys ended up taking that victory. I thought Caleb Abel played excellent for them in that match against you guys. Then you guys go on, you play Thunder, you beat them 5-1. You didn't really have too much of a problem with Thunder. Thunder was a little bit inconsistent out there. They were one of the, there was basically everyone from 11 down to 20 went 1-3. Sorry, 11 down to 19th overall went 1-3. The only team that didn't win a game was the Outlaws. And, Thunder, they lost to the Russians. They lost to you guys by 4. Then they beat Energy 6-0. And then they lost to the ML Kings by 1. And then after that match, you guys played the ML Kings. You also beat them by a decent margin. It was 6-2. That game, they put a couple decent points up on you guys, but you guys controlled that match. But then you go and you play the Russians twice. And I thought that this is the bulk of the story for Tampa Bay Damage at the first event. The story with Damage is that one of the most legendary teams in the league at one point in time had won 3 events in a row, won the World Cup. They were the best team in the world. You've played on so many top teams. So kind of before we get into talking about the Russians, who are one of the best teams in the world, obviously they made the finals 4 out of 5 times. They're 2nd overall right now to the Ironman. So obviously we got a few things to talk about here, but just in general, I just think it's interesting because Damage, one of the top teams, you played on a lot of these top teams, Impacts, the Houston Heats, the All-Americans back in the day, played on Aftershock. I mean, you played on a lot of teams. But now I feel like Damage is going to make a run again. And there's just the entire, all of pro paintball is getting pretty deep. and we've discussed this a little bit before, but I mean, we got some time to talk as far as overall with, some time before the next event. But I want people to keep their eyes on Tampa Bay Damage. And going into this discussion real quick about the Russians, how do you feel the franchise looks? I think it looks good. Man to man, the playing time's getting spread around a decent amount. The kills are, it's not one or two guys that are doing all the killing. I mean, you guys are starting to look pretty solid, dude. You guys are starting to look like a threat again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. I think that we've, Jason Edwards and Joey Blue have done a good job of picking up the right personnel, right? CJ stepped up and helped us recruit all the right guys. CJ Batsalis, the owner of Tampa Bay Damage, or one of the primary sponsors. Bringing Keith back was huge, right? Bringing Brian back was huge. Getting Brad was it's funny because the last time I was on here, I knew Brad was coming to the team, but he kind of wanted to do it the right way and call everybody. But Brad's been just instrumental to kind of provide this level of offensive diversity that we were just slightly lacking, kind of maybe the next weapon to put us over the top. Even Joey's only been 4 events coaching the team. Right. We have a great coach. We have depth at, I think, all the positions. So not advancing further, which, reasons that I have my own feelings, whatever, but not advancing further was nothing but a disappointment. I think we have the talent to win tournaments, and I expect to win tournaments. I mean, this year might be a little bit shorter than we anticipated, which is a little more frustrating. But I think that we should and will win tournaments at some point in the near future.
I think so too. I think picking up Brad was a huge bolster to your offense.
Yeah, huge.
Brad was a big part of AC Dallas's offense, and on a team that developed offense over the past couple years, but not known for being an offensive threat. But it's some people say, "Oh, Brad McCurley's underrated." I'm like, dude, if you've been watching pro paintball since 2012, Brad McCurley should not be underrated to you. I mean, he is an offensive weapon. So the fact that you have a team now full of guys that can play a very charismatic and diverse brand of paintball, some guys that are offensive threats specifically, picking Keith back up was massive. You get Brad McCurley back in the mix now, and it adds so many different options. And Brad had some really good points for you guys in Vegas, but as good as he played, I mean, he definitely put some kills on the board. He was your second to top killer other than Keith, but I feel that he was still maybe at like a, depending on the game, but I still feel like he was still trying to get out there and, earn his paycheck. So there was a couple times that he died where he would die a little bit too early over battling. So once he gets grooved in and how good the rest of you are getting and how diverse the team is, it's going to be a hard team to scout. It's going to be a full of guys that have clutch ability and proven that in the past, and guys that, are experienced enough to, as we see the way that these field layouts are going, that layout was very much what's going to happen in the scramble. A couple bodies come off. Who's going to make those moves? Who wins that chess match once the bodies start dropping? And in that first game you guys had against the Russians, the last game of the prelims, you won that game 9-6. It was kind of blow for blow. They took the lead on you guys, and in the very beginning, and then you guys came back, you put the lead up on them, and then they fought. It was a blow for blow game. It ended up, but then you guys pulled away, and then that's when it looked like the Russians weren't going to show their hand. And I talked to Jason and Jacob at the end of that day as they were walking to the cars. And I said, that was a heavyweight battle until you guys took the lead. And then it looked like they didn't want to show their hand just in case. Sure enough, you guys draw them the next day in a day that was interesting because we didn't even know who was going to play who at the end of Saturday, which had never happened before. So we had to Sunday and then have to play another game to figure out who's going to get on. Then everyone figures out when they're going to play. And then you guys play, and that game also went blow for blow, and you ended up losing by 1. So what are your thoughts in general on that game?
I mean, if you look from the start of last
set
year,
of games,
Vegas till now,
set of games.
Yeah. I think that the Russians are the most consistently good team at the top. I mean, I'm even factoring Europe. I mean, they're so good, right? They're so offensive. They're so talented. Every time we draw them, you're like, hey, you're not going to go into some rollover game, right? You never expect them to blow them out. You're going to bang with arguably the best team in the world. Winning that game on Saturday was good. It's just at that point it was just for seeding. But the hardest thing to do at a tournament is to beat a team twice, let alone twice in 15 hours, right? I mean, I still don't know. I get why, but I don't agree with drawing the same teams that you play in the prelims. But beating arguably one of the most unpredictable teams, one of the top teams in the world, we played them at 6 p.m. on Saturday and played them at 10 a.m. on Sunday, right? And when you win that first game, you're almost at a slight disadvantage, right? Because mentally, you're not going to want to change what you do too much because it worked. Versus if you lost that game, especially if it didn't mean anything, at that point it was just seeding, right? Then you say, okay, here's what we did that lost. How do we adjust that? And I felt they had going to that second game a little bit of an upper hand. I still feel we should have won that. I think that whole penalty situation with Smotroff was a little bit of a gray area. I still don't agree with it. And I still feel like we were playing good enough to win the tournament. I'm not saying we would, right? Every time you get on a plane on Monday morning, you go, oh, this happened, we would have won the tournament. But I still feel like we should have won that game and at least been sitting here saying we're top 4. But that's paintball. I played 400 tournaments. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and that is definitely paintball. I mean, that penalty could have gone the other way, but it kind of did come down to that. Again, we are going to be doing a tactics episode with Keith Brown on that specific game because it was one of the best games of Vegas in a tournament that, yeah, sure, dude, it's a paintball tournament. You're going to see some blowouts. That field was interesting though, from a tactical perspective. And that specific game, because you guys had played them before, like you said, you have to play one of the best teams in the world on any given day, the best team. I mean, if you look at how the Russians, heading into their last year's performance, even all the way into the year before that, where they won a tournament, last year they had 4th, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 2nd, and then second at this other one. The last 2 events, I think, was a 1st and a 2nd. And the year before that, I have it on my notes here. I got to go back and find it real quick. So in 2018, it was 6th, 4th, 8th, 1st, 2nd. So yeah, 1st and a 2nd. So the Russians have been constantly in the deeper rounds of the tournaments. So the fact that you guys had those 2 games against the Russians of all teams, yeah, sure, it could, if it was Impact in there or Houston Heat, or yeah, sure, the statement would have been the same. But if I'm anybody else, if I'm anybody right now, and I'm thinking, okay, well, now we got Damage in our bracket, which whenever the next tournament gets played, it's going to be you guys, Russian Legion, Thunder, Energy, and the ML Kings in the next bracket. So I just think that creates a very fascinating story for whenever that next event happens.
Yeah, I mean, World Cup, we lost to the Russian Legion overtime, right? Vegas, we got knocked out by the Russian Legion overtime. We just got to get past that hump and make sure that the little things that have prevented us from winning that one extra point don't happen. And I feel that we are, we're progressing there. I think as you hit the nail right on the head, once we get Brad fully integrated, Joey's been doing a great job of coaching, and we're just getting more and more on the same page. It's we're right there. Just takes a little bit more time. And I think, right now not playing paintball sucks, but I feel more positive about this team than I have out of a lot of probably in the last decade of some of the teams I've played on.
I agree, dude. I'm really excited about Damage's future here. And I'm also thinking too that, and this is a little bit of I wouldn't say it's a little controversial, where everyone I feel like is trying to do their due diligence to maintain quarantine and try to be smart about this. I got a pregnant wife and a mom with cancer right now. So I'm not trying to take any extra risks where I could, be a carrier and give that to my mother or, my pregnant wife and that and et cetera. So I get it. But that being said, the mortality rate on this specific virus, if you look at some of the new data that's come out, it could be even less than they thought it was. So as things and certain areas of the world start opening up, whoever can actually get out and train a little bit, even if it's by themselves, wherever that may be, people that have access to a backyard, like some people have access to a backyard, some people don't. Some people have access to a paintball field, some people don't. Even trying to be smart about things. So I'm just wondering what that next level is going to be and who's going to have, you guys, your team's from Florida. Florida is opening the beaches up again. So I'm just wondering if Damage is going to be one of those teams that is going to have access to maybe get into a field a little bit earlier than some other places.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that Florida definitely seems to be the most aggressive about getting the state open. I think that as soon as a field's available to be open somewhere in Central Florida region, all the Damage guys will be out there. I'm kind of the lone outsider up here in PA. We've been able to fortunately have spots to do drills, whether it's me and Chad George or Ryan Moorhead or, the one guy that works here, Craig. We've been able to do things to stay sharp given our current situation. For us, thankfully, we're super hungry. I mean, the moment that there's 1 second we can get on the field, I feel like all the Damage guys will be out there. But each state's so different right now, right? I mean, you have the governors making their own decisions. I guess from a paintball perspective, I fully agree with what you're saying from a social perspective, but from a paintball perspective, I mean, I do feel positive about the state of Florida probably having fields open fairly soon. So that'll be good for us.
Yeah. Look, again, I understand. Like I said, I'm in a situation where I have to worry about certain members of my family who are in that realm. But also that being said, I do understand the other side of things where it's like, dude, this is not a mutated bird flu with a mortality rate of 40 to 60% that's going to be the zombie apocalypse. So, at a certain point in time, like things got to get going again here. And when you're looking at what's happening in certain areas of the world, I think that, and I don't know what Pennsylvania's like. What has your governor been talking about? Because California, like they're opening up the parks again, even though they're keeping the parking lots kind of closed. I'm old and broken, so I try to golf is my my outlet now because my knees don't work the same way they used to. So even though I love playing paintball, like I just I'm broken a little bit. So I like playing golf. I think they're going to open up the golf courses in the next month or a week or so. Here, Riverside County already did. So things are starting to loosen up again. Obviously, trying to maintain that social distance. Now, paintball again, this isn't jujitsu, dude. We're not hugging up on each other and exchanging germs. It's outdoors, and people are typically generally not right up on each other. So, I just think that I really do think we're going to get things, at least from paintballs, as far as paintball is concerned, I wouldn't say necessarily back to normal. We got to keep things and keep COVID-19 in mind, but I think that we can ramp up here pretty soon, depending on where you are in the United States.
Yes, I 100% agree. I saw this quote from Aaron Rodgers that I loved because, we have our own feelings about athletes and their perspectives on society or politics. And Aaron Rodgers is like, listen, man, I'm just good at throwing a football. I live in an ivory tower. I'm not supposed to be up here telling people how to live their lives. And so with that being said, I can't say how people should or shouldn't feel about this, but I do hope that whenever things are better, everybody's positive, everybody's prepared physically and mentally to address health concerns as best as possible. I hope as an industry we're able to come out and be positive, but I do feel that the tournament side of paintball especially, and I feel I was looking at some sales records here at the office, and we've been selling quite a bit of stuff, which all things considered, from where I thought we were going to be 3-4 weeks ago, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awful. We're going to be okay. Yeah. And as long as everybody, has some level of positivity, which I know you and I are probably always on that glass half full 99% of the time. Totally. If we could just incorporate a little bit of that into our industry, and people say, hey, the day that the fields are open and I feel comfortable going outside, go out and support your local field, go out and support your local team, go out and support your local store. And I think we're going to come out of this okay. Again, I have absolutely zero scientific knowledge of this. I'm just trying to be positive about it, and I'm reading all the reports. And you're right. I mean, we are not a physical game, right? I mean, if I shoot a guy within 6 feet, I'm stoked, but that doesn't happen very much for me, unfortunately. And I think we'll be okay come summer. I really do.
Well, and even if it does, don't knock yourself too much, Tim. I have been watching every single point of paintball for the past decade, and you have shot your fair share of dudes out there. I also have the kill count records in front of me here, and you shot a decent amount of dudes in Vegas too. So, if you're not going to dribble out, if you're not going to toot your own horn, I'll toot it for you. But with that being said, but even once if you're within with 6 feet of people, you're running right past them, and then that's it. So mine is like a face-to-face argument, which does happen occasionally, but it's just paintball is not an activity that I really truly think that once things get even slightly back to normal, even with the worst case scenarios, it's like if you look at some of the data that came back from some Chinese scientists who did some indoor aerosol-based, virus dispersal situations in a room that didn't have any airflow. That's a little bit of a scarier situation. But again, man, we're outdoors. people aren't right next to each other. This is not the most dastardly situation. So I think that paintball, like some of these, like these parks being opened, even in California, and they've been pretty Nazi-like about, like I said, dude, they were dishing out $1,000 tickets or people sitting in their car watching the sunset. You're out there surfing, cops are chasing you down, like cop boats out in the ocean chasing surfers down in the ocean. Like the Pacific Ocean was closed, dude. The Pacific Ocean doesn't close normally, but it closed for the past 5 or 6 weeks. But if California is starting to loosen things up a little bit, again, based on some of the stuff I've seen from these articles from the experts, you and I are definitely more on the positive side of things. But I just think that we are going to be getting some type of paintball back up here sooner rather than later. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm excited to see what Tampa Bay Damage is going to do once we get back to it, because I think you guys have a legit chance to win whatever the next tournament is that we play. And I think we got a decent chance of, if that not being some big grand thing, the NXL will be able to pull something smaller off. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things go down. But we will know pretty soon here in the next month or so what the deal is. But Tim, man, thank you so much for sitting in with me. I really appreciate the conversation. Obviously, you're one of the guys I always touch base with, so we will touch base again here sooner rather than later. Do you have anybody to thank? Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, thank you for having me. I mean, I've been fortunate. I appreciate you guys always having me on here to kind of shoot the breeze with you. Thank you to all my sponsors. Thank you to everybody that supports the Iron City Classic. And hopefully we see everybody sooner than later, right? I mean, just stay positive.
I'm with you on that, man. 100%. Let's stay positive, stay healthy. And don't forget to check out episode 1 of Go Sports Tactics. It's on the website right now with Kyle Spica. Episode 2 with Archie Montemayor breaking down their win from Philadelphia should be dropping pretty soon. Also, episode 2 of the Impact series should be dropping as well. So we're hard at work on some content for you guys during this quarantine madness. But like I've been saying, man, come hell or high water, we will be seeing some type of competitive paintball coming at you here sooner rather than later. Man, thank you guys so much. We're going to be having Keith Brown for episode 3. For Go Sports Tactics here pretty soon as well too. Yeah, I love me some Keith Brown. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys Friday when I got Pasha Karslev. Not sure on the time. Karslev, if you're out there, hit me back, dude, so we can dial in this time. But yeah, Karslev from the Russians in Moscow. It's going to be talking about his rise to paintball fame, and we just talking about how good the Russians are making all those.
One of my favorites. I love watching him play.
Dude, yeah, he just is a murderer on that D side. So he's going to be our guest
Torpedo
on Friday. So thank you guys so much. See you guys Friday. Welcome to Go Sports Tactics. I have one of the best in the business, one of the best snake players on planet Earth.
Some outside kind of element get in my head and distract me from what was happening in the point.
Jackson that came, he slow rolled out to that tower and put really good paint back in there on me.
And I was just thinking, what in the world are you doing? We killed them.